Hello, Warriors. Tell me, how can I say good turnaround Tuesday when we had it all on Monday? What can I call today now?
Hey, you know what, Dale? You said mission was not accomplished yesterday.
I know.
Uh-huh. You said
And
it.
I
You said
did.
it.
I guess it was.
It was not. It was not accomplished. There's still fighting going on.
Oh,
And
so the truce isn't holding at all?
no, no, that's the whole
Uh,
reason why the you see this Swiss sweat. I mean, there's
all right.
little bombs and it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that, you know, that anything is one and done when you drop like a million tons of bombs on somebody. And let's say surrender and you don't think that's going to happen. So but the markets are acting like everything's okay, and what I want to start out doing is give Kman a tip of the hat for staying constructive and long euro into all that mess yesterday. We almost made new highs here. Are we going to
Morning,
um,
Dale. Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome, buddy. So, I mean, new highs aren't far away at 33. We got to 20, and
Yes. Yeah.
the I'm actually, uh, I don't have high confidence in it, but I bought the dollar under 99, and I
Mm.
didn't add here, but I'm wrong under 97. Is it possible that we get a hold here?
Well,
Uh,
it is possible, Dale. I mean, I've been scaling back already on my longs as I usually do, as you know. But I'm keeping the core. But we're just discussing in the flow room about we're starting month end, maybe. It's month end, quarter end, half year end. I know that we are a bit early, but we start to slowly get into that period, and I'm I think euro all in all, my bias hasn't changed at all, but I
yeah,
think maybe a little cautious into month end perhaps because we were looking at the performances on the different equity markets, and actually the eurozone outperformed the US. So I
again,
still think we may print a high on month end. I'm not so overly sure, but I think overall bias unchanged, whether it is this week, whether it is next week or so. I think we are going to have a visit of that 117 and a half. But as usual, I am still um, adding and then taking profit on the ads and keep my base and then trade it around like so. Same thing. I bought cable yesterday. I let already three-quarters of it go, and then just keeping a quarter and see where we end up. It's actually cable is looking a bit more constructive now.
yeah,
We are
yeah.
we
What a
are.
difference a day made.
Oh, incredible! Yeah, that's exactly what I said this morning in the room as well.
And
I
and
don't
and, and
always
nothing exemplifies it more than that. Now there
exactly.
was, and you know what? That was really no one knew about the ceasefire yet. That was just simply on a tweet from
Yeah,
Trump,
mm,
wasn't it? I mean, really, to move the market ten
yeah,
dollars
yeah.
on a tweet.
And again, Dale, we have to again, whether it be $5 or $10 or $12, again, we have a geopolitical spike, and what happens the day after? It just drops away again. And okay, if there would have been the worst happening, of course we would have been above $80. But if nothing worsens, we continuously see the same scenario. Oil is going up, going up, going up, and then all of a sudden loses its bit, and it's still the same pattern ongoing. It
Yeah,
started
yeah,
with the Ukraine-Russian war, actually. It's been going on for 3 years, this pattern.
yeah. It's actually retraced to the breakout, but
Yeah.
I'm not brave. I don't have conviction enough to buy it here. I wouldn't be short right now, though. I mean, you could
No.
have some kind of rebound. Uh, what I wanted to talk about is Canada is very stubborn about giving it up compared to the rest of the
Yeah.
board. Also, you know, pounds almost at new highs, euros almost at new highs, and Aussie still falling short. I think this probably up here is 78.6 if I just eyeball it. So, and then look, we're only about we got up to 6,100 in S&Ps,
Mm.
but we're diverging up here. And I'm not an Elliotician, but I had this line drawn, and to me it looks like a triangle. I looked at it as a descending triangle. I thought we were going to break down. But if it is a wave 4 triangle, then we could be completing something up here. Of course, it almost reminds me of what it did when we broke through 6,100 last year. If we get back under this breakout, then there's something wrong. Otherwise, yeah, new highs are a day away. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Likely.
that's my turnaround Tuesday shot
Mm.
as
You're turning
selling. I'm selling them here
you're
with about
turning
a
upside turn it
yeah,
upside down Tuesday.
yeah. So anyway, thanks very much for you know your looks on what you're thinking here, and uh, nice trading. And
Cheers.
so, one thing I have to say is when uh, everything that Kman described while he's doing it, if you're in the chat, you know about it. So you know when not only when people are putting on positions, but when they're scaling out. Pretty important part of it. The exit is just as important as the entry. So, why don't I go to Ryan now? How are you, buddy?
Hello. Hello, mate.
So, did you go back into Aussie after it got back over 64? I think I know your style. Did you?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
I haven't touched it. I've still got my buy stops running through the top. So if we break up there, I'll get back in. I want to see what, if the levels reassert themselves now. We've got this, what is it, 65, 10-ish area,
Yeah.
10, 11
Yeah.
area that it's hit its head on. So I want to see, 65 holding now, 64.80, 64.40, 45, the big level below. I want to see if that holds again, if we ever move down there, or else we're going up through the top. Because you need a continuation in a lot of these moves. Like you're talking about the euro, it dipped, but it couldn't continue. It couldn't carry on going.
Yeah.
It only matched the high at the lows from last week. So
Right. Right.
that's your little clue. And then we're on the other side now. Can it go and break the highs now? Well, it can't. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Yesterday,
Nothing. I guess
yesterday
nothing.
yesterday the text didn't mean anything. Headline and your levels went and the lines went and the price went. Today, things have calmed down. Now the text can, you can rely on them a bit more and trust them a bit more. Aside from your president swearing every 5 minutes now.
Okay. All right. Comment on how much yen gave back. And what do you do? I mean, if you didn't short it yesterday, you can't chase it down here.
Nope.
It's almost like if you didn't react yesterday, how do you react today?
This is my perfect example of seeing whether the techs are back in play. I've got a zone 144.90, 145.10. I've taken along 145.06 to see if this level is going to hold again. It's looking a bit wobbly. It's looking a bit weak. We're flapping around 145. But if take out that whole spike up and move down, we're right back pretty much where we started. So, the levels are maybe going to start playing. So I'm going to give it a go. If it fails and breaks lower, then I'm wrong and I'll get stopped out. And that's life. But I'm more inclined to trust my levels today than I was yesterday.
Okay, we're getting a little Fed speak. I forgot her name, but she was a hawk, and now she's kind of shifted.
Yeah, Bowman.
Bowman.
Yeah, I've looked back over her comments, and she doesn't speak an awful lot. But January and February, she was like, "Yep, we should stay on hold, and we need to see more progress on inflation." And yesterday she's sort of done a 180, saying, yeah, I can see a cut coming in July if inflation plays ball, and the tariff stuff hasn't been a problem, and we want to be in front of any jobs market weakness. So whether she's putting her hat in the ring alongside Waller or not is another matter. But we've also got Powell today as well, in his testimony, which will probably be a nothing burger, but you never know.
Well, is this what used to be Humphrey Hawkins' day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still
All right,
is.
so I mean, yeah, they used to call. I don't even know who Humphrey Hawkins was, but I look at this I look at the 10-year yield, and it keeps trying to break down, and it can't. And
Yeah.
it looks like the same kind of descending triangles. What you'll notice, traders, is at times in the market, you'll see a pattern, a formation, and it will repeat in different asset classes. So right now we're in descending triangle land. So if it does what the S&Ps did, we should break out to the upside. But I'm not sure TLT. Really, I'm. How can anyone have a real strong opinion about bonds here? I'm not impressed by this kind of overlapping rally, and it's so quiet. I don't know if I should short it here. So it's just like I think they took the market away from us. It almost looks.
What's the one asset you would think in a risk-off environment and all these headlines? What is the one asset you think would see a lot of action?
In a risk-off bonds.
Bonds. And what have we seen the last few days?
We've seen nothing. That's what I mean. We had no flight to quality in April either. When the market was crashing, we actually went down.
Yeah.
So there's trouble in Bondsville, but
maybe that was the tell that the market isn't that bothered about this Israel stuff. It's easy to say that in hindsight, obviously, but you look at bond when you get a risk-off event, you look around the assets, you think, oh, gold must be going to the moon. The yen must be bid, Swiss must be bid, bonds must be bid, and then you look around, and you think, well, none of that's happening.
Actually, can I just jump in here? And I think maybe the scary thing is if you think about like the dollar and you think about the bond market, this is where the U.S. dollar and U.S. treasuries are losing their bid, and the market's just not really confident. I disagree. I think like the Swiss franc is really the standout here. And I mean, as the Euro Swiss is still very weak, but you're right about the yen. I mean, the yen's been generally speaking very weak as well. So
I gave you the screen, bro.
Oh, where's the money going, guys? Where do you think?
Exactly.
Stocks.
It can't go anywhere for 5 minutes because you get another event happening and it has to run somewhere else. It's like kids in a playground, headless chicken.
Yeah. It's interesting, and you guys are harassing so fun in the chat room. If you guys haven't been in the Forex Analytics chat room, Ryan just gave Kman a red card for talking about end of month flows too early. But I'm going to jump in there, Kman, and say I agree with you, man. This is end of month, end of quarter, and we've seen a lot of volatility. So there's got to be a lot of flows coming through the market at this point. Or starting to come through the market at this point. I don't think it's too late, because who wants to wait until Monday, and then value date's just a couple of days away. But who wants to wait for all that time if you got so many flows to chew through? So I you can give me a red card, Ryan, if you want.
You get one. It's protocol.
Hey, so let's backtrack a little bit and let's talk about this ceasefire. So yesterday, or last night, President Trump jumped on social media, said, hey, I, brokered a deal, and we're getting a ceasefire, and all is good. And when we went to bed last night, everything seemed fine. Well, actually, I take that back. Iran had shot missiles out at Israel right up until they said it was right up until their 4 a.m. ceasefire deadline. The ceasefire is going to go into effect at 4 a.m. or whatever. So they said they shot missiles all the way up until like literally then. And then, obviously I went to bed. I got up this morning. I read that Israel is lobbing missiles over. Trump gets up, drops the F-bomb, says these guys don't know what the hell neither one of them are doing. Netanyahu and Trump are on the phone right now, or just were. And this post here says a senior White House official told me that Trump was very angry and spoke in a very firm and direct manner during a phone call with Netanyahu. The president made clear to Netanyahu what needs to be done to prevent the ceasefire from collapsing. The prime minister understood the seriousness of the situation and concerns that the president expressed. The senior White House official told me, and then also said, senior Israeli official says Trump called Netanyahu and asked him not to attack Iran at all. Netanyahu told Trump that he would not cancel the attack and that some response was needed to Iran's violation of the ceasefire, obviously because they shot missiles past 4 a.m. Iranian time, local time. Ultimately, it was decided to significantly reduce the attack and cancel the strike on a large number of targets. So when you're in a boxing match, Dale, and you're like pulling apart the fighters and the bell rings and they're still swinging and one lands a punch and the other one's like, still swinging too. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So on the break, they're taking shots at each other. There's just too much animus between the two that I can see. I just can't see one and done. So we'll see. I hope
The
he can do it.
market, the S&P and you
Yeah.
look at futures, the futures obviously believe that it's over. It's just this is the point where we're at. But you can see in like the yen, I mean the yen's has strengthened quite a bit today on the heels of all this stuff. You were just talking about the dollar yen with Ryan. We had this nice slump lower in the dollar yen. So I'll ask Kman. Kman, what do you think about all this stuff that's going on? I mean, and where do you go and what do you do here?
As we said on the Flow Show, probably the missiles heavy bombing is over for now, but you never know. In that zone, um, peace never lasts for long, or it's never completely quiet over there. So I'm not sure we've seen the end of anything at all over there. But yeah, the markets are what the markets are, right? We've been seeing this move, these moves out of all the hedging that they needed to do. You see oil collapsing, which is probably after a round of getting out of yen longs that we saw up to 148, now also helping the yen because the yen still imports energy. But you look at gold, it's coming down. I think that move can continue a little bit. Now, what do I think of all this? We still need to be careful, and things may not be over completely because we know about those sleeper cells and stuff. They can come out of the woods and do terrorist attacks any day, right? But it does seem that from both sides, in the heaviest stuff maybe over for now. So a period, or at least some time of more positive moves in the market. Yeah, they're still very possible. But as I said, and as I told Dale as well, I'm still taking positions on and off relatively swiftly and around my base bias, and for the rest, the market will take us where it wants to take us. I've seen quite quite a move though. Aussie is not breaking yet, but if you look at Aussie and Kiwi, they're right back up into the resistance as well. They've
Yeah,
been
yeah, I was gonna say in Sterling, I mean that was a
yeah.
hell of a move. Was there
I kind of
anything that I know Bailey spoke? Was there something that
yeah.
provoked that move?
No, I think it's on the back of risk as well. Sterling is a risk currency. And cable tested that 133.85, went like briefly below, and then and this. But again, and yes, we may be early to talk about month-end flows, but we are a week, less than a week ahead of the last day, 2 days ahead, and we know that in the week before, sometimes the flows are already be seen. And yesterday, it started roughly when you guys arrived, that all of a sudden Sterling turned around and was actually a pretty much a leader for whatever else was going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised Sterling finishes the month on a positive note.
It's
I
been
think
a
the
it's
pound
been
went
You
up
know,
because Bailey didn't say anything. Usually
what
you
whenever
know,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
goes down.
exactly.
that thing that Kay mentioned, sleeper cells. Remember Blake after 9/11? That was a big fear that there were sleeper cells here that could, that turned out to be one and done. We never had another one since 9/11
that's because no one
like
woke
that.
him up.
But I'm not being political here, but there's all kinds of talk about people who have come through the borders unvetted over the last 4 years prior to Trump and Biden finally clamping down. Um, Military age. Uh, who knows who's out there
Well,
right now? I mean, I worry about that.
I do too, but let's just since you brought it up, let's just talk about it real quick. If let's say a sleeper cell was activated, and let's say there was innocent and a lot of innocent Americans killed as a result of a sleeper cell, and let's say
Yeah,
bomb goes off in a mall or a sporting event. We would probably level a 30-mile radius within wherever they think that the supreme
yeah,
leader's at. And he knows that. And I like to explain it to people in this fashion. When you have you have extremist leaders, really, they're not the ones that want to kill themselves. He's the guy's 86 years old and he's been the leader since the 90s or 80s. He is very much a survivor and he doesn't want to die. I mean, he may be old and he knows he's going to eventually die, but he's still, he would rather send people out to go do his dirty work, but he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to do that to himself, and he knows what the repercussions would be. So I don't. I think that is a really.
they do
I don't
have a
want to say
different view
far-fetched.
on death. Okay,
Sure.
than we do.
Well, at
So
least
we
they like
can't.
to profess they do.
Well, anyway, it's just something to, keep in
Yeah.
mind that you can't just put like, how we in the West feel about life and death and martyrdom. Okay.
Yes.
And there was plenty of martyrdom in Western civilization too. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's skip
Yeah.
that and figure out a way to make money here.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? I'm glad actually Marc Chandler is going to be here. He's
Yeah.
a great guy to have on today. One of my favorites. Such a great gentleman. So make sure you stick around for Marc. He'll be here in the next 7 minutes. But Ryan, what are you making of all this, and where are you looking to try? I know you were just talking about the dollar yen. I picked up some dollar yen with you just a moment ago. If you guys missed it, I was actually just in the chat room. I just picked up some dollar yen as well. I'm joining you, Ryan. I'm joining your ranks here. We're at a 618 retracement. I have to assume, like Kman, that the whatever we've seen, the majority of what we've seen is already done, and things are probably going to subside from now. Obviously, the stock market feels the same way. Is this something that launches the stock market to all-time highs today? I mean, it sure does feel that way, doesn't it? I know it's divergent. I get all that, Dale. I see all that
Oh
too.
yeah, it could. Yeah, sure it could.
Right.
Just one thing you may want to look at for the community, and get a comment from Ryan is that on the 4 hour Euro pound chart, you did have a three drive formation up there and it did come off pretty good. So Ryan, where are you at on that one? Does that look like a top to you?
Euro sterling, what was that? I think it topped out round about what,
70 or
84.70, yeah, which I had a level up there anyway.
1, 2, 3. There you go, Dale.
yeah,
So it all fits your 3 drives. Was it a 3 drive?
Yeah.
And my 85.70.
Yeah.
It got there, and now we're back testing the top of the 84, 80, 85, 20 zone. So if it's going to
Could go
maintain the
to-
rally, it holds here. If it
otherwise
doesn't,
84.5 looks likely.
yeah, down there 84.60, old
Yeah,
levels down there as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
I don't think anything's changed for the euro right now, so I don't know why this trend would suddenly change around, because we know that the euro is still well supported. But yeah, prices got to move, haven't they?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Thank you, bro.
Pleasure,
All
mate.
right, so we got just a couple of minutes. We got Canadian CPI. I might as well take a look at the loonie really quick. So the loonie, here's your other 3 drive day. Look, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, failed. Well,
And right
actually,
against the moving
diverged.
average, too.
But yeah, but it didn't diverge. So, but still, regardless, the dollar CAD, I haven't had much feeling with the dollar CAD. I know we're in this descending channel, and then I haven't been super excited about trying to be on the long side after we've bounced from the 618. So I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Let's just put it that way. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on the dollar CAD at this point?
It's actually been pretty calm, hasn't it? Another one that's been pretty calm over this risk stuff. It's certainly keeping a bid. I had a big zone down at 30, was it 36, 35.80? Excuse me, and we had a little duck under, but it came back above. So there's a couple of pairs that are looking like maybe we're just changing the trend a bit. Dollar CAD's one of them. Dollar MEX is another. I was banging on about the importance of that 19 level yesterday, and what's the low today? 1901. This could be a change in trend if we hold here. The safety net is going to be that double bottom in the 82s. So dollar CAD could be heading back higher because it was doing that before this poo hit the fan as well.
All right. Well, Kman, you have any thoughts on the loonie right here?
Yeah, if you look at maybe that broken triangle that we had before, I think that my top line comes in at around 138. At around 138 actually, and so this whole zone 137, 138 is pretty important. But there is, I agree there with Ryan. There's more support to the downside, I would say, than there would be if 138 breaks. That's kind of how I look at it, at how the price action has developed. And I won't be short if 138 goes, that's for sure. Because then I think we could be back at 140 pretty quickly.
And you can see this 137 level is the 38% retracement, which would argue if we are developing some sort of bullish trend, that means we should stay above 137. Theoretically, the pullbacks have been fairly minor. So this would be a level that we might get some buying coming in. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do it this way. We might get some buying coming in. So let's see if that we get that for the CPI.
I think it has 39 in it. One more high, 39 and a half. I don't think we'll get through 140 though.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pull up the data flash.
Okay.
You guys can find that on Forex Analytics. Obviously, I'll pull up the dollar yen right here, or a dollar yen, dollar CAD right here, and we're just gonna put it on like a 1-minute chart as we go into the CPI data. I'll put it on live squawk feed, and then I'm gonna pull the data flash down here.
Look at this guy multitask. It's
That's right.
unbelievable.
That's right.
Huh?
Yeah. And we
This would
about,
take me 20 minutes to do. We'd miss everything. My hands would be shaking.
And one of the things we didn't mention is crude oil that was the nastiest candle I've ever seen in crude oil. We were talking about that in the chat room yesterday.
Yeah.
And despite this risk aversion, you didn't see crude you didn't see stocks pull back and you didn't see crude back above 70. Crude is still heavy. So,
Yeah.
all right, here comes the CPI, a little bit hotter on the month over month.
Yeah.
Core CPI came in at 0.6.
Uh,
What I'm surprised that it actually,
no trade there for me, to be honest.
Looks all
yeah,
in
I
line.
mean,
Headline in line as expected, 1.7, and previously in the core in line 2.5% as well. So softer on the other 1,000 measures they like to count, but as expected.
okay, yeah. So I mean, in the month over month, ticked up just a bit, but that's not affecting the dollar CAD. So not a big move here. And Dale, you might be onto something. Well, I mean, I'm buying some dollars too. I started buying them a little bit
Yeah.
yesterday, and I bought some
Yeah.
more today.
It's worth
I
a
mean,
shot.
well, yeah, and on top of it, you are starting to see, as Ryan pointed out, you're starting to see the dollar firming up against certain things. I am concerned though. I mean, we have sterling that's,
Yeah.
right up against resistance. We got the euro that's probing 116, which I mean, the euro still to me feels like we're going to see that 116.50, maybe even as high
We
as
should.
120.
It'll
So,
diverge on that if it just does a stop hunt, like
oh,
so.
hell yeah. I
Yeah.
think so too.
Oh,
So,
and that the ugly candle you saw in WTI, it wasn't a candle. It was a suppository. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
no. What it was
Okay. And suppository.
Oh, got it. I got it. I
and,
that took me a second to think about that shit. I mean, stuff.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then you have to help me promote Marc.
Okay, let
Uh,
me. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot we had to do that this morning. So yeah, let
yeah.
me grab Mark. And you can say your goodbyes to these guys while I do that. Let's see here.
All right. So Kman, nice trading. Ryan, thanks for all your insights again today, and good luck on what you put on. Hope the end pops for you.
Thanks, mate.
And
And you?
and thank you very much. Best team on the net. I bet our guests might uh, go along with that. And Blake, thanks for everything you do, leading the team and making us have a great place to trade and opening it up to the public for free.
My pleasure, and thank you, Coach, and for this morning, and also great call on the "it's not over till it's over" yesterday,
Yeah.
and let's hear it for Mark Chandler. We got Mark Chandler in the house.
Yes, Marc Chandler in the building. Hey, Marc,
Morning.
great to have you back, buddy. How are you?
Good. I wish it was better times.
Yeah, so I mean, you and I haven't talked in a while, and so much has happened. I mean, we had that, the tariff stuff and the 20% correction in S&Ps, and then the quickest recovery I've ever seen. From that type of crash. I don't think COVID did it that fast, and all the geopolitical stuff happening here. How's it been for you? I know a lot of people are having a difficult time in these markets where one tweet changes the whole picture in 30 seconds. Um, how's it, how are you dealing and trading this? Are you trading less? Is it, do you have to go for shorter time frames or even longer time frames? Have you had to make adjustments? This, I guess, is a long way of saying what I was going to ask.
It's been a challenging time. I haven't really I've really pulled back trading, but I think it's a bit like I think you're right that the time frame is so important. Having to respect the time frame in which you're trading in. But sometimes I think about how they taught us how to drive in the U.S. They say aim high in the steering. Which means don't just aim when you're driving. Don't just like target you're not looking at the pavement 10 feet in front of you, but you're looking down the road. And I think that helps me keep a clearer, big picture view of
Okay.
things. And in that
Okay.
big picture, I think the dollar is going to fall much further. I think last time I was on, I was saying the dollar index was headed to 95, and I think
Yeah.
I'm a bit conservative. Maybe it's headed towards 90. I think that even now with the currencies, you're still looking at And I know you're gonna laugh because a lot of you are operating at a much shorter time frame. But if you look at a bigger time frame, and this is the only time it really counts, purchasing power parity, and just a measure of valuation, the dollar is still, I should say, the euro is more than 50% overvalued and so, undervalued, I should say, and so is the yen. And so I think that a bunch of these forces are unfolding that the dollar's long-term downtrend will continue. I'm
Okay.
concerned though today, after we had Bowman and Waller, two
Yeah.
Trump appointees to the governor at the Fed, had talked about now a July cut. I think that
Yes.
Powell's testimony today before Congress is important. I think that he's going to sound more hawkish than they are. Remember, the dot plot is the ink is hardly dry, and at that dot plot from the June FOMC meeting, nine Fed officials either thought no cut this year or one. That's half the Fed. And I
Yeah.
think they're probably respecting that. I think that nothing has really changed from sort of the Fed's leadership point of view. The economy, they say, is still in a good place, and that buys them some time to wait for things to clarify. And I think we have to get past at least July 9th before things clarify with the reciprocal tariffs.
And there are
I,
no emergencies to
well,
ease. What's the emergency? We're almost at new all-time highs in S&Ps.
yeah, I think that, a lot of the tariffs are being imposed on an emergency powers basis. So I agree with you. The Fed doesn't, I would expect Powell to say that there's still no urgency. Of course, every meeting they talk about should they change policy. So to have the discussion in July still seems to be prudent. I'm in the camp that thinks that the economy is weakening. I'm looking at the closest thing to real-time labor market, which is the weekly jobless claims. We're at the highest level. Whether you look at the forward moving average, you look at continuing claims, the labor market's deteriorating. And other ways to measure it, the intensity, full-time, part-time, all that kind of stuff. I think labor market's weakening. We're going to see this this week as well. Durable good orders. The headline's going to be jumping because of Boeing, but the underlying shipments, especially when you strip away commercial aircraft and defense, is another sign of weakening capex. And we've
Okay.
seen retail sales fall 2 months in a row. So I'm in a camp that thinks that the Fed's going to have to cut rates. I have it penciled in for September. An idea that the economy is going to be weakening and that's going to change how they assess the risks.
Okay, so I want to know if we're going to have, when they do begin to ease, the atypical reaction that we had the last time they eased, where yields on the long end of the curve actually rose quite dramatically after their last easing. If you look at the 10-year I have up here, Marc, we have a huge range for about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years between, say, call it 420 and 460. How do you see this resolving if you're looking for lower rates? Do we just roll over here, take out 420 and head into the threes? Or is there one more push above this 460 level? And maybe even the easing is what does it if we have the same reaction.
Yeah, I think partly it depends on what happens when the Fed does resume its easing cycle. If it is seen to be political, I think that's a problem for the long end. If it's seen to be reacting to, because the Fed does not do things preemptively, it appears, that
Right.
if it's a reaction to weak economic data, I think the market's going to like that. And especially you think about what's happening too with the changing some rules, regulations like the supplementary liquidity requirement, which allow banks basically freeze up more, makes it more attractive to have treasuries. The stuff about stablecoin, that also the treasuries argue that's going to increase demand for treasuries. And I'm not so concerned that foreigners are not buying so many treasuries. We in America are, and I think that's really the key element here.
I know that you're in bonds
I,
because
I am long bonds. When I sold my New York apartment, I took the equity, and I'm in the typical ETFs for sort of the 10-year to the belly of the curve. I don't
okay.
regret it. I mean, I don't want to take the risk with my principal. I want to buy another place, and so I see that I've missed an opportunity in the stock market, right? Where basically we could be setting up for new highs, like in the S&Ps. But
Yeah.
to me, we have to figure out what part of our capital we want to put at risk and what part of our capital we want to preserve. And so I'm trying to preserve that chunk of the equity from my apartment sale. But I've been in the stock market. I've been what I've been. I've been trying to play themes. So I liked which is now making new highs. Bombardier in Canada. I thought they're going to be tying up with European defense. I thought these medium-sized airplanes. I like that. I like BYD in China. I've been trying to play the uranium space with
Okay.
energy fuels in the U.S. Uh, so yeah, I try to
That
play
was a
these
good
big
one.
themes in equities. I'm participating with a bunch of the large hedge funds into the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, thinking that Trump is going to try to move to partially privatize them. So yeah, I play the themes. I try to avoid momentum type things. So when I try to trade my own account in equities.
Okay. So weaker dollar, did you catch any of the miner action? They were stellar, a lot of the miners.
Yeah, I haven't really played the mines. I am long some gold, though it's going to get hit pretty hard here today.
Yeah.
Gold doesn't like peace, but I think that when we saw what happened in April, many people, I think I think the political climate in the U.S. is such where something bad happens, blame foreigners as sort of the knee-jerk reaction. But what we see with the tick data is that it just wasn't true. Foreigners have bought more paper assets in the US, more stocks and bonds in the US this year, in the first 4 months of this year, than they did in the first 4 months of last year. And there's a really important BIS, Bank for International Settlements. You can find this free on the internet. They do some really good analytic work. And what they're concluding, if I understand it right, is that most of that sell off that we saw in April in the dollar was really not foreigners boycotting US capital markets because of the tariffs, but really hedging, especially from Asia. And what they do, it's kind of interesting. And I tried this myself many years ago. Instead of having a bar for every day, having a bar for the Asian session, European session, and the US session. So every day was 3 bars. And in effect, this is what the BIS has done, and they found that most of the dollar selling pressure came in the Asia Pacific time zone, and they conclude that was primarily hedging. And I think there's an important like insight here. We often think of the market as buyers and sellers, people who want to buy the asset and sell the asset, but there's a whole layer, especially the capital markets, of people who are hedging. Like
Yeah.
my clients at Bannockburn, they're corporates, they're medium-sized funds, and part of what they do is hedging receivables for corporations. They're not looking
Right.
for the best trade, they're looking to lock in prices below budget.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why the markets were created, not for people to trade their 5-minute tick charts.
Well, I think that it's a question of like to me, what happens is my clients are looking to offload some risk. And I suspect that many of your listeners take a piece of that risk.
Yes.
And so that's the importance. That's why we need a wide variety of market participants operating in different time frames with different motives. It's not like we all play the same game of maximizing profit. There's a whole group of people, a whole large market segments that aren't interested in maximizing profits. They're interested in locking in certainty, reducing uncertainty. And so
Exactly.
you've got these people who are want to offset risk with people who are willing to take on risk.
That's right. So, Mark, I know you're looking for lower dollar. Can we get specific on, say, for example, do you feel that way about the commodity currencies? Because we are getting a little bit of a bounce. You have levels where you'd look to be a buyer in euro. I know we've had a 2-day big run. If you were flat, what would you do with looking for currency trades here?
Yeah, so I think, like I say, for me, if I'm playing for the short run, like today, tomorrow, I'm looking for
Yeah,
power, sound more hawkish. So I agree with what you guys were saying earlier about trying to buy some dollars. So I would look for a pullback in the foreign currencies. But I think that for me, again, it's like I'm in a position where I don't have to catch every move. And what I try
Right.
to do, having been having lots of scar tissue, I try to go with what I think is the underlying trend. In case I get stuck the wrong in the short term, at least I got the long term in my favor. Of course, yeah. So I think that even now, I think the market's being a bit conservative about where the euro can go. I was just looking at a Bloomberg survey for the end of the year, and I think they have it going towards 118 or so, which doesn't seem like a big move to me. I think
Yeah.
we could be on the other side of 120.
Okay.
I'm watching the 65.50 level. I think you guys mentioned that earlier in the Aussie. I think that the Aussie and to me Kiwi, they sort of trade like high beta euros. You tell me which direction the
Great
euros
metaphor. Yeah.
which way, right, the dollar is going in general. And I know
Yeah.
what we want to do is we want to be on the fastest horse. And so maybe it's long Aussie, short Kiwi. Maybe it's along the Scandies in a when you're bullish the euro instead of being just long the euro. Take a look at Sweden, maybe more so than Norway, just because Norway is more thinner traded. It's really more treated more like a petrocurrency. I typically don't buy that the Canadian dollar is a petrocurrency. In fact, in my work, what I find is that while sometimes, say, Canadian dollar could be influenced by risk-off correlation with the S&P 500, could be more sensitive to interest rates, but I find that a lot of the currencies right now are correlated to the dollar index, even if they have a small part in the dollar index, like the Canadian dollar or the
Yeah.
Aussie. And so this tells me that we're having what's really a dollar move. And in a dollar move, a couple of things I think are typical. One is that the Canadian dollar lags on the crosses. So when the
Okay.
dollar is strong, the Canadian dollar tends to strengthen on the crosses. When the dollar is weak, like we are now, the Canadian dollar tends to weaken on the crosses. So that means that it's almost like a North American type trade. It hangs close to the dollar. It's actually got among the lowest volatility in the G10 currencies. So that's why I'm
Wow.
looking at things like that. The pairs, currency pairs that are highly correlated, like Aussie Kiwi or Swiss
Yeah.
Euro Swiss, and you just want to be on the faster horse and catching the trend in a weak dollar environment.
Okay. Uh, Mark, so what do we do? You say you wish we were in better times. How do you tune out what you feel emotionally? Because, people go, well, Dale, you watch too much news. Do you ever get that from people? Stop watching the news. How can we, with what we do, stop watching the news? And how do you kind of have some type of firewall up so that it doesn't blend in with your trading?
Know about that. I like it sounds like a different world than I live in.
Yeah.
If someone said to me, "Don't follow the news." That means ignore the fundamental factors. To me, it'd be just as insulting if someone told me, "Don't look at the charts. It's just
Yeah.
technical, it's numerology or something like that." I think that
Yeah.
trading, I think trading's difficult. I think trying to have a view about these things. I mean, it's not like a loaf of bread. You go to the grocery store one day and you get $3 for a loaf of bread. The next day, you go in the next week, it's still at $3. Currencies in the capital markets, we've got these constant incremental changes. Sometimes they're not so incremental, like we've seen in the last couple of days. So for me, I think it's not so much like overdone on the news or fundamentals. But I think that what many of us lack, partly because of our education, is a larger framework to understand these things. Like I think you said earlier, when I was listening to the show, Dale, that these people in the Middle East have been at war with each other for generations.
Yeah.
And
Eons.
so to appreciate that these kinds of truces, ceasefires are very fragile. Trump
Yeah.
had called this a 12-day war. I think that's really misleading in the sense that Israel
Like it's
first,
over.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, not just that it's over, but that it just began 12 days ago.
Right.
Israel took out Hamas and
Right.
Hezbollah, which are the proxies for Iran. And so the
Yeah.
war really began like a while back. And is it over? No, but I think that the important takeaway is not, even if this ceasefire doesn't hold, I think the market's fear that we saw at the end of last week of a World War III has diminished. The idea that Iran was going to close the Straits of Hormuz, that also seemed to be that scenario, that tail
Yeah.
risk. seems to be
Right.
have been reduced. I think that rather than Iran closing the Straits of Hormuz, the greater risk was us, the private sector, insurance companies charging more to insure tankers going through that region, making it prohibitive, that raising the cost to make it to eventually a prohibitive level of shipping. Not that they were closed off because of missiles or weaponizing the straits, but rather the market responding to the heightened risk. So again, I think it tends to be it's sort of like what I was saying before about the hedging. If you really have to think, I think. About the markets, the capital markets, not as just buyers and sellers, but it's a much more complicated 3 or 4 level game of chess.
Yeah. So, you talked about the euro being maybe 50% undervalued, and you also said that you thought the yen was. So, one of the biggest levels I see, and the whole world will be watching 140 on the yen, right, Mark? Because all you have to do is look left, right? It could be a big neckline. I mean, it's come into play for about 3 years. So this would measure 120. Is that viable?
I think that's where we're headed. Maybe not this year, but I think that's the direction we're headed. And it's kind of interesting too, you know. Again, why I stress like the time frame that we operate on is important, because it became a dollar move over the tariffs.
Yeah.
The dollar yen became less sensitive to 10-year US yields. I think
Yeah,
that's oftentimes to me one of the great guides for the dollar yen is the US 10-year yield, not the spread as Ferry would have it, not the short end, but really that 10-year yield. And in the last couple of weeks, I'm looking at a 30-day rolling correlation, and that is back to above zero point 0.4. It fell below zero point 0.1. So we are seeing gradually the 10-year yield come back as the underlying driver. And I think you have this on this chart too. The 200-week moving average
that's it.
for dollar yen just below 139.60 or so. So
Yeah,
you
right there.
to me, this is a big topping pattern. Uh, what it takes to break through it, I think ultimately it's going to take lower U.S. interest rates. That's been one of the big shifts this year. How we've seen the market give up the idea practically of a BOJ rate hike. They try to normalize policy, but you know the amazing thing is this auto tariffs that the U.S. is imposing. The auto sector is about 10% of Japan's GDP, employing
Yeah.
about 8% of their workforce. This is a major blow. This risks, I mean, the Japanese economy is weak. It already contracted in Q1. It's not off to a great start in Q2. And these auto tariffs is just like it's like just a big weight. I think an obstacle to the BOJ normalizing policy. They're going to take a step back from the unwinding of the balance sheet next year. The government is reducing the supply of the long-term bonds. They're
Right.
trying to respond, but the weakness of the economy is really preventing the normalization and the U.S. tariffs. I mean, it's not just the autos, but especially autos for Japan, but steel and aluminum as well, is really going to be a challenge for this normalization of Japanese monetary policy, which means that we can't count on the Japanese side of the equation, Japanese higher rates, to drive the dollar yen lower. It'll have to come from lower U.S. rates.
Or how about risk off? Safe haven currency?
Yeah, but we just had, well, I think the safe haven currency is a bit exaggerated. Here's what I sort
Okay.
of see happening. Typically, why does the yen or Swiss franc rally when the world's melting down? Not because people are buying these currencies because this is a great place to hang out. They're buying the currency because they have to, because they're short those currencies like the
And the
Swiss.
carry trade.
Exactly. In fact, it's not just a carry trade in that strict sense, Dale, of people looking to pick up yield. But when you or I, with our own money, we're buying a currency, we're buying stocks, we want that asset to go up. But large pools of capital don't have to do it that way. It's OPM, other people's money. So they
That's
fund
right.
the long S&P trade or the long treasury trade, not with their dollars, but by borrowing yen or Swiss francs, for example. This is the so to me when those high risk assets go south and eventually they do, you have to buy back the funding currency. What's interesting to me though is the yen is not being used as much of a funding currency right now as the Swiss, and partly remember what the Swiss National Bank did earlier this month. They cut their interest rate to zero. they've got negative inflation. Japan has the highest inflation in the G10, and Switzerland has the lowest. And they've knocked their interest rates 50 basis points below the Japanese. So for these funding currencies, you use the Swiss franc, the dollar,
Right.
and maybe even the Chinese, the offshore RMB.
Okay. I think you mentioned that last time. You mentioned the yuan as a funding currency last time we were together.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
people are.
something that, it's just as a tool in our toolkit is which currencies are good funding candidates. And I think that's the interesting thing that's happened this year is that uh, the dollar, because people's bearish views of the dollar, I think that the dollar has become the funding currency, which is why we rallied so sharply. And as soon as the market had a hint that this was theater, and like I was trying to write in my commentary today, it's not clear when the theater began. I sort of suspect it began over the weekend, when the U.S. dropped those
Yeah.
mother-of-all bombs, those bunker busters, a dozen of them, and on the sites that were on everybody's maps. And so it seems now even more credible that the Iranians moved
Yeah,
the
of course.
uranium outside of that area. So the U.S. Display of force was simply that. And then
Empty.
when the Iranians struck yesterday, that was also well telegraphed, well within this theater of de-escalation. And so I think that's really the takeaway. Even if this ceasefire doesn't hold, it's really been de-escalated.
Okay. Well, that is good news. And what else is good news is that people could follow your work and not wait 3-4 months for you to be here on Face. And Marc, you're just listening to you, and I usually talk more during interviews and interrupt people all the time. And you had me listening today, and I feel edified, and uh, some things that I was considering, you know, uh, don't hold water to what you were saying. So always appreciate you visiting us and coming in and educating me, professionals, and our traders in our community. Um, like Blake says, you're one of Face's favorites, and
Taylor,
it's great.
I appreciate FX Analytics, just the support you give me over these years. And I sort of feel like it's not like I have despite like a lot of gray hair and over 30 years of experience, I don't. It's not that I have found any secret way of success. I think I really identify with this quote from Thomas Edison. He said he didn't fail. He found 10,000 ways it didn't work. I have found a lot of dead ends, and I just
Yes.
hope that through my work I could share like stumble on another one. And I kind of think
Yeah.
I think that's the way it works in the sense that it seems to me that there's only three ways to make money. You either go with the trend, you fight the trend, mean reversion type strategies, or something like this carry trade. But there's lots of ways to lose money, and I think I keep finding new ways.
Yeah. Anyway, embrace our failures because
Yes.
our greatest lessons are from those. And it's never a failure to have a conversation with you, Marc. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a half an hour. Everyone go to marktomarket.com. Follow Marc on X at Marc Making Sense so that you stay abreast of one of the best thinkers in FX, in my extremely accurate and humble opinion. All right,
Very
buddy. All right, my my
sales.
my my trading warrior brother Marc Chandler, everyone. And thanks again, Marc. Everyone have a great day. Good luck. Let your trades breathe. You don't have to trade. No one's putting a gun to your head. If there's nothing compelling, sit on your hands. I guarantee you something will hit you in the face that you won't be able to stop yourself from doing. Wait for those. And most of all, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thanks again, Marc Chandler. You're welcome, everyone.